Russian authorities are preparing to enlist the Defense Ministry's huge mobilization reserve, which was created by decree of Vladimir Putin in 2015. On Monday, the government approved a bill that would allow the Russian president to use reservists without declaring martial law and mobilization in counter-terrorist operations and military conflicts, including those abroad. This will allow up to 2 million people to be deployed for the army's needs. First Deputy Chairman of the Duma Defense Committee, Alexei Zhuravlev, told RTVI, "After all, we are fighting very real and very large-scale hostilities, but at the same time the war has not been officially declared, and these legal subtleties limited the possibility of maneuvering for the Ministry of Defense. Now they have been eliminated," said the deputy. "The question is about people who voluntarily served in the army, receiving for this allowance various payments and benefits, and now are in the reserve, also receiving for this money supplements and benefits. These people will be involved in a much greater number of cases than before, and this is quite normal, especially given the situation in which our country is now," Zhuravlev stressed. According to the bill, reservists will undergo special training camps to perform tasks in the field of defense for a period of no more than 2 months. Corresponding amendments will be made to the laws on military duty and military service and on the status of military personnel. The changes apply only to citizens who have concluded on a voluntary basis a contract to stay in the reserve and do not apply to those in the reserve, explained RBC Deputy Chairman of the Board of the Association of Lawyers of Russia, Igor Cherepanov. At the same time, the tasks in which reservists will be involved can be very different. Up to the Ukrainian front, the law has a clause on the use of the reserve outside Russia, and this applies, for example, to Sumy or Kharkiv regions. There are hostilities there, but they are de jure outside the country, said the head of the Duma's Defense Committee, Andrei Kartapolov. The initiative looks like insurance in case mobilization is completed and more people are needed than can be recruited within the draft. Grigory Sverdlin, the founder of the Go to the Forest project, told Agency, "It seems that they just untie their hands, as if they are giving themselves a free hand in this way." The current legislation allows Russians in the mobilization reserve to be involved in real combat operations only within the framework of mobilization, and this requires mobilization commissions, which have been inactive since 2023. Human rights activist Artyom Klyga notes, "We see that the authorities are avoiding the second wave of mobilization, so they need a different procedure under which they can use the mobilization reserve," Klyga said. Kartapolov said the mobilization reserve includes people who either have a registered military speciality or those who have signed a contract with the Defense Ministry. They sign a contract, receive a certain monetary remuneration for it, and continue to fulfill their job, their duties in the civilian life. But if necessary, they are subject to a priority invitation to the military commissariat and referral to training camps to other various activities. Kartapolov explained. He added that now in the regions bordering Ukraine, there are many citizens who are in the mobilization reserve. According to Putin's decree on the creation of the mobilization reserve, it includes people who have signed a contract with the Ministry of Defense. The first contract is concluded for 3 years. The reservists undergo annual military training, during which time they are assigned jobs and employers are paid compensation for the absence of employees. Experts say this will cause discontent among reserve forces. This means that a new wave of discontent is sweeping Russia.
Russia is ramping up production of its T-90 tanks and restoring its pre-war reserves, signaling it may be preparing to pose a long-term military threat to NATO, analysts at the Institute for the Study of War said in an assessment. According to the open-source intelligence group Frontelligence Insight, internal documents from Russia's main tank producer, Eurovagonzavod, reveal plans to increase T-90 tank production by 80% by 2028 compared to 2024 levels. The factory also intends to launch production of a new variant, the T-90M2. Analysts estimate that from 2026 to 2036, UVZ will upgrade more than 2,000 tanks, including T-90M, T-90M2, and T-72B3M models. Combined with the tanks built during 2024 to 2025, that volume would be enough to fully restore Russia's armored fleet in preparation for a potential future large-scale war. Open-source data also shows that Russia is increasing repairs of T-72 tanks. At the same time, ISW notes a sharp decline in the use of tanks on the battlefield, suggesting Moscow may be stockpiling armored vehicles and preparing to modernize its reserves, both for continued operations in Ukraine and for a potential confrontation with NATO. ISW warns that Russia could pose a significant threat to the alliance well before 2036, even without fully rebuilding its tank arsenal. Despite suffering heavy losses in Ukraine, the Russian military retains the ability to regenerate manpower, the assessment said. According to ISW, Russia will likely maintain substantial combat power for several months after active fighting in Ukraine ends, allowing it to rapidly shift forces to NATO's eastern flank. Russian military planners are also developing new concepts of operations and battlefield tactics that enable large-scale combat without relying heavily on tanks or armored vehicles. Simultaneously, Moscow is working on methods to deny an adversary the ability to use its own armored forces effectively at scale. Additionally, experts say Russian forces are learning how to strike enemy rear areas and disrupt logistics from the air without needing full air superiority. This approach allows them to achieve the effect of aerial interception without establishing outright dominance in the skies. Still, ISW said there is no indication that Russia's military leadership plans to wait for a full rebuild before escalating attacks against NATO member states. On the contrary, it may act sooner if the alliance fails to maintain adequate deterrence.